How's it going, fellow DJs? As promised, I wanted to bring you guys a little information on setting up DMX for the real low. So what I got here is one of these eBay Lixada USB-DMX 512 adapters. Lets you go from USB to DMX 512. You just connect it to any cable as an extension, and then run that cable to your lights. You can see I got a few different lights set up here on this trussing just for testing. So basically, there are a lot of adapters out there where people want, like, you know, $300 for like American DJ or Chauvet or Martin style USB to DMX adapters, but this one, believe it or not, is only something like $15 on eBay. So for $15 you could get that. I'll put a link in the description for the post on eBay that I got it from. It came right away. Well, not right away, you know, like the typical 2 weeks or whatever. And it works with a program called Freestyler. The problem with the Freestyler program is that it only runs on Windows. So I have a little MacBook here that I use as a slave computer to run my DMX lights and also project videos onto a projector. And then I have my main MacBook Pro that I use for DJing. But this one, I have Parallels installed so I could run Windows applications on it, and it actually works pretty good. So what I got here is a Freestyler X2. And it works good with all Windows computers and seems to be working fine in Parallels. So I'll show you guys how to set this up. I'm not really gonna go into depth about how DMX 512 works, but I will post some videos in the description that other dudes made that explain perfectly how DMX 512 works traditionally with a controller, like an Obey controller or something like that. You need to understand how that works so that you can you know, try and do it in the software. This is basically just like a simulation of a controller like that. The other thing is, you know, you need to understand the connectivity of DMX and how you run the cables and how it would work in what they call ArtNet and a few other different type of connections, wireless DMX and all that stuff. There is another video I'm going to post in the description. It's about an hour long, but it's all you need to watch is those two videos, and then you'll get the hang of it 100%. So to get right into it, you're gonna need to download Freestyler X, and I'll put a link in the description for where that is. And then you'll also need to download the driver. I'll also put a link in the description, but if you just Google UDMX, you'll find it. You go ahead and install the driver while the device is plugged in, and you'll be good to go. Then the next thing is you open up the program and you go to your preferences. You go to setup right here, and you're gonna go to Freestyler setup, and you're gonna select which device you have. I have the UDMX, so I got that one hooked up. And then you mirror. You have to check this box for mirror from Universe 1 to Universe 2, and that way Universe 2 you can use for another software that will kind of display your lights in 3D, so you don't have to have it all plugged in like I do now. I don't particularly use that because I don't know how it would look you know, afterwards, but a lot of guys swear by it. So if you want to try it, yeah, you're gonna want to mirror that so that you could use Universe 2 for the 3D thing. You want to select your device, and then once you got that, you hit save. I already did that, so I don't have to do it again. Yeah, so you go into your setup. You can of course change the background. I got a picture from one of my gigs there. It looks nice. And then you're gonna start trying to add your fixtures. So the program already has a lot of fixtures programmed in it, probably almost all of them. But if you don't, if you have cheap lights like I do, I have these eBay, whatever the fuck they are, moving heads there. You're gonna have to program those yourself, but I can show you how to do that. Basically, you're gonna go to add or remove fixtures right there. You hit that, and then you scroll through the trees of brand name fixtures, whatever it may be. You find the fixture that you like. It'll give you a picture of it and everything. Then you take that fixture and you click the right arrow, you move it into your actual fixture's addresses here, and then it's going to give you an address for your fixture. So here I got, for example, I've already made an address for my Parcan there, right? I got 2 of those, and you just continue to add them, and you just continue to add them, and then it'll give you the addresses automatically. Start address 50, depending on how many channels your light has. So for example, that one can be set to between 4 channels and 13 channels, and it has many different options in between those channels, many different commands. But once you got it all down, you might have to create one. So to create one, you go to the editor, and so to do that, I'll show you how to do that. Once you got all your lights set in here, you're gonna want to go to the light, right? And you're gonna want to go to, if it has a digital menu like this one, you'll have to actually go through the modes. I have this one set to DMX channel 37. You can see that here. I have this one set to channel 50, and so on and so on. If yours is like this light here that only has dip switches, you'll have to understand how binary works in order to set the dip switches to the correct DMX channel. Or you can take the shortcut here, and you can go to the fixture and take a look at your fixture here. It actually gives you a preview of where you should put your dip switches in order to get the address that corresponds to the light that you've added in there. So once you do all that, hopefully you don't have to create any profiles, but if you do, you can do that too. You can say, for example, I'll go into the fixture editor here just by hitting edit fixture, right click, edit fixture, and then the fixture editor will pop up. You can then hit file, you can create a new fixture, and then you can input all the values. So in order to do this, you will need the manual. So for example here, for these moving heads here, I got this manual. You'll have to download it on the internet if you don't have the paper version. And you'll need to go to you'll need to go here so you can find out what each channel does, and you'll program all of these channels. So this is the 13 channel version. You'll program each and every one of these channels into there, right? You'll create multiple channels here. I'll show you in the channel description. You'll go and create all the channels that you need, and then after you've done that, you have to set the values correctly for each channel. So this one has many functions within each channel, and I can show you. You also need to know how the menu works in your light, depending on the light. They're all different. It's the only whack part about doing this. But here you can see I got the 13 channels. Each channel, it tells me what it does within those values of each channel. So you'll have to go in there and do it the hard way and select each and every value and input it in there, maximum or minimum, shutter, strobe, whatever the deal you're trying to do. You can create color wheels. If your lights have macros or automatic functions, you can go in there. And if there isn't any setting in there that can do it for you, you can just create a slider, just a custom slider, and then you can map that to your MIDI controller. Oh, because by the way, yeah, this is awesome. You can actually map everything in here MIDI and use the MIDI controller to do the whole deal. So that's really awesome. But once you got it all hooked up, you go ahead and you hit file, you hit save, you save your fixture, you add it in later. You do it the same way. You go through add a fixture, go to setup, add a fixture, and when you go through that tree of lights, your newly created light should be in there. So I've already done all that work with my lights, and I'll show you how to make them work. So basically, it's up and running right now. So I'll show you. This is my American DJ Parcan here. So I'll go to Window, and I'll hit All, and all of the controls for that light will pop up, in which case I'd really only get full color spectrum and the lamp, whether it's off or on, or whether it's strobes. So I'll show you how to control it. You just basically select the color, turn the lamp on, boom, just like that, and it should 100% function. Yeah. What's going on here? Oh, I know. Need to set up my device. So USB, USB-DMX. You won't have to do this. I have to do this because I have to select whether it connects to OS, Mac OS, or to Windows. But now that I have selected it for Windows, you can see this light, I got it to the color green, and I opened the lamp, so basically that's off and on, and then boom, it's green. Only that one lamp is on and it's green. So all the DMX cables are running, so it doesn't matter the orientation of the cables, how you connect them. You just go from one and you just daisy chain it. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? That's all I've done is daisy chain them. So you once you add the color of your fixture, one very, very important thing that no one explained to me, and I had to figure out the hard way, is that if you don't unselect your devices, stay selected for the purpose of selecting two at the same time, and then you can control both at the same time. So I can set up two green part cans and have them both open, and both of my part cans will be on. So that's very important for the moving heads, because if you want to control them equally, you can just select both in the program and then you can move them equally. I'll show you how to do that next. So I'll go in here now and I'll turn these off to make sure that it's all gravy. I'll turn everything off. I'll deselect all my fixtures. This right here is deselect, very handy tool. Just hit that, boom. Now you know that none of them are selected. So, for example, say I want to group these two. I can hit my moving head, which I already created a cool little controller device for, and I got my movement here for the moving head. Right now, I'll select the second moving head, and now they're both. You see how that one turned red and that one's blue? Now I have both selected. So if I take that dial and I move it up, you can see my moving heads just moved. Now I'll move it again, and boom, both of them move equally together, and they dance at the same command together. If you don't group them together and control them together, if you try and do each one individually, it will not work. So that's very important. So I'll go ahead and deselect all my fixtures, and then I'll show you how to create a sequence. Okay, so to create a sequence, you just go right here, hit create a sequence, boom, right? So I want to create a sequence of fades for all my lamps to be on and to just be, you know, changing colors slowly, just fading slowly. So in order to do that, I can go ahead and select my first lamp, or actually I'm just gonna group all my lamps together. So I'll hit that, I'll hit that, I'll hit that, I'll hit that, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So unfortunately, the way this works, for every step in your sequence, you must control each and every individual light. You can group all of them like I just did now, but you won't have individual control. If I hit, say for example, a green color, and they're all green, and I hit open, turn my lamps on, you can see all my lamps are green. Even the moving heads are green. My lasers are on. The lasers I have them set to just off and on because they don't really have much control, they suck. But everything else, I got it all set to green, it's all working, right? So now that I have my first scene in my sequence, I can go to the sequencer here and you just hit the magical plus sign and just boom. So now that scene is step 1 in my sequence. So now I want to go to scene 2. I want to change the color to red. So I'm going to go to red. Boom. Now all my lamps are red, right? But the moving heads, you see, for every sequence I have to make sure that they move, otherwise it's gonna look stupid. So I have to go way up here and I have to deselect everything, and I have to select only the 2 moving heads, and then I'm just gonna move this randomly just up. And so now my moving heads change position. So now I can then go to my sequencer and I just hit the plus sign, and then boom, I got step 2. Now step 3, I want yellow, so we'll hit yellow. Well, actually, before I do that, very important, deselect everything again, right? And then select everything again. I know this is annoying, but this is the only way. Otherwise, you're going to be going through each and every individual lamp, and you don't want to do that. So we'll select everything. We'll hit yellow. Boom. All my lamps are yellow. You know, they don't look yellow here because you're seeing, you know, but if you look over here, totally yellow. So we got everything yellow. And now I want to move my moving heads again, so I deselect everything one more time, go to my moving head, select only those 2 heads, and then I move the fader downward just like that. My moving heads change position, and I go ahead and I hit step 2, right, and then done. So now I want to show you guys how to save that sequence. I got 4 steps in my sequence. So you just go here, you go to save as, you hit that, right, and you call it whatever you want. I already have a few sequences there. I'll call it fade 1, and then you hit save, and you want to make sure, very important, that you check this box that says add to queue. If you don't do that, then all of that was just like for no reason. So make sure you hit add to queue, and then you hit save, and boom, you can go ahead and close this, right? You can preview your scene here, your sequence I should say here, and then you can see my moving heads are going from yellow to green to red, back to yellow, back to green, and everything is moving according to my sequence, right? And it's automatic right now, it's not sound active or anything. So I'll show you guys how to work the cue next, so that you can control that correctly. So we'll go ahead and stop that. Now what I like to do in this step is I like to close this, because this program's kind of finicky, so you want to make sure you always hit file. You want to always save, right? And then you want to exit. Every time you save and exit, it resets the program so that it works. Sometimes if you don't do that after every sequence you create, it doesn't act right. So at least for me it doesn't. So I like to do that every time I got some amount of work done, to make sure that I got my work saved. And I go ahead and restart it. You'll see my lights haven't received any other signal, so they're still in the last step that they acquired, but boom, as soon as the program starts, it zeroes back out. So next we'll go to the cue. So in the cue, this is kind of like your mixer that allows you to play all your sequences, right? And again, this is all MIDI controllable, and I'll show you the options in the cue here. So basically I'm going to show you guys the automation I made a little while ago. So you just hit play on the automation, but actually before I do that, let me show you guys how I have my automation set up. So you have all these little options, right, to loop them, to play them in reverse, to randomize the events. That's very helpful if you create a shitty little sequence of like maybe just 10 different changes. If you just hit the randomize button, you know, that could go on forever. So it's, the possibilities are infinite here. But here's the little thing called sound active. If you want everything in your live show to be synced up and be sound active, you deselect whichever one of your cues you want to be sound active, right? And then very important for me too, I right click here and I go here, so react to sound. And then another thing that's very important is restore values when sequence stops. If you don't select that, what will happen is every time you change scenes, the values are not going to reset, and you might get some of the effects of your last scene in your new scene, and you definitely don't want that because it looks like shit. So here we go. Now that I got all that hooked up, I go up here to my sound to light, and the way to set up sound to light, very easy. You go to config. You're gonna want to go to whatever audio device you prefer, select it there, and you want to turn on these automatic buttons here. They're gonna set the threshold and automatic clipping for the mic. They're gonna turn up the gain when it's soft, turn down the gain when it's, you know, too loud. So that's very helpful. Once you got that hooked up, you can just minimize it. That'll live in the background. It's a separate program, so you'll always have to open up sound to light every time you open up your, you know, everything, so for it to work correctly. But yeah, once you got that sound to light hooked up, you should be able to then play one of your cues. Yeah, okay. Also, another thing I forgot to mention was MIDI control. So I got my MIDI controller set up. Also, you go to setup, you go to Freestyler setup, you go to external control, and then you go to MIDI control. Now it's super straightforward. You just go to the control that you want to control, say toggle blackout. You hit the learn button down here, boom. You have to make sure, of course, that you have your controller plugged in, and that the controller is, you know, the drivers are installed or whatever. But once you got it hooked up and it appears as a device, it should appear here, right here. I see CMD DC1, that's mine. In and out, right? And then you hit start, and you can stop it if you want to, but no need. Just hit start, and then control whatever you want, toggle whatever you prefer, and then just hit save and you're done. So I'll give you a little demo of the things that last but not least, master controls. You got blackout, so if I just hit that, boom, just blacked out, boom, everything's back in, even the lasers, blackout. So that's very helpful. And then you got you know, override buttons, which you can then map and control, and they don't set up sequences, but only like you know, whatever you select. So I got a crazy strobe going right there, and that is my override for the strobe. You can select, you know, whatever override, but it's only gonna do one thing. So override red, override, you know, whatever it may be. Someone asks for a specific color, maybe you got a band playing or some shit. That is helpful. Everything else I'm sure you guys can figure out. There are so many other things you can do, more advanced things, but that's the basics. That's what'll get you in the door. And for only 15 bucks and some shitty computer that you found somewhere for nothing, you can get yourself hooked up real easy. So yeah, man, this is DJ Occult back at you guys, trying to spread the love and show you guys what's up with what I've learned. And of course, I'll show you guys a video of it in action for my gig this weekend. So yeah, man, you guys stay tuned.